Welcome back to the 31305 podcast. We're on episode 22 with not too many sporting news to talk about, but we do have, of course, the conference finals, which ended in the NBA and NHL, some MLB standing updates, and a little bit of preview of the finals in both sports. As always, I'm Alex, joined by my good buddy Taylor. Did you imagine you're very excited for the finals, excited for some baseball talk?
Honestly, this is it's been pretty good. Hockey's in a weird spot. I'll take it though. No, we keep saying it, like no high level perennial great teams in it. The NBA, we're getting perennial good teams. The Heat, against back to back Nikola Jokic and crew. Excited. That starts Thursday?
Tomorrow.
Is it
Tomorrow's the
tomorrow?
first game of Stanley Cup. Yeah, I
Okay, so
think.
we got.
Or maybe it's Thursday.
I know the final starts Thursday. I think
Yeah,
the
maybe
NBA
Stanley Cup is
finals.
Friday. Or
Yeah,
maybe Stanley
but
Cup's Friday.
we do have both the seasons coming to a wrap soon, with the respective finals kicking off this week. A good week in baseball. Not a ton of news, just like always. Not a ton of news for baseball, but a lot of good games, a lot of good series. Uh, the Blue Jays put a beating down on the Rays, throwing 20 up on the board. We had a good
Hmm.
series with the Dodgers and the Rays this weekend. We got some stuff to look forward to. We're going to give you our report cards for the mid-season report cards for baseball. Um, I think that's pretty much all the stuff. We got some NBA hiring news, and then that should be a pretty quick episode. Not too much, but we'll start it out in South Beach, buddy. I doubted him, very rightly so. I did say that this is going. I said this has a chance to go six. I didn't think it'd go seven. Um, but the Miami Heat stay away from the annals of NBA history
Hmm.
and fend off the reverse sweep, winning pretty convincingly, against Boston in the Garden. I'll give you your victory lap. Go for it, buddy.
I mean, the last episode we talked about the Heat were up 3-0 and were ready to sweep. And we thought I'd gave Boston one game. But no, the Heat
You
decided, you
know,
know
you
what?
didn't even give Boston one game. You said it's ending in four.
I thought
So
I said it in four. You know what? The Heat are just better, like with their backs against the wall. You know, they really take the underdog mentality too far. So they had to go to Game Seven to like, oh shit, if we lose here, we're out. But what a response after that soul crushing Game Six. You know, everyone thought the game was over. Jimmy Butler made three free throws. South Beach is gonna party, but then Derek White comes out of nowhere, grabs that crucial and putback to send it to Boston. But I mean, Boston, what a flat showing at home. I know Tatum hurt his ankle a little bit right in the beginning, but
first play of the game.
first play, first minute. But I mean, you got to look at also Boston's surrounding piece. Derek White was their best player on the court, and even Tatum gave him more than Jalen Brown did. Al Horford, besides the one good block he had, really didn't do well. Marcus Smart did an okay job, but there just was something missing, and that's what even Skip Bayless, even Stephen A. Smith have said throughout the postseason. Boston was just missing something, and you could tell. I mean, the Heat really took it to him. Caleb Martin, my Eastern Conference Finals MVP. As much as I love Jimmy Butler ended up winning the award 5-4 with the voters. But I mean, what a way to win, to reverse it what it was last year when they beat us in Miami to secure going to the finals. Our turn to beat it in Boston, and I was happy the entire night. I knew after the third quarter we weren't going to lose.
Oh yeah, it was a blow. I think I texted you like in the fourth quarter, congratulating you on making it.
Hmm.
It was the Celtics just didn't show up for Game Seven. Um, they were outscored. They were down like what 11 points at halftime, something around there, 10 points, and the
Hmm.
Heat the Heat just never looked back. Took it from there. Outscored them in the fourth quarter, 27-18. Um, just just a shit showing. Jimmy Butler 28 points, Caleb Barton 26 points, who I honestly think should have won the MVP. They gave it to Butler. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's you're gonna give it to Jimmy because it's Jimmy Butler. He's the best player on the team. Caleb Martin
Hmm.
definitely deserved to be in the conversation for it. Um, just a shit showing from the Celtics. 14 points from Tatum, went 5 for 13. Marcus Smart with 9. Derek White with 18. Jalen
Hmm.
Brown, he had 19. He was negative 17 when he was on the court. 8 for 23 from the field, 1 for 9 from three. Not going to get it done. I know they started out 0 for 13 from three in the first quarter. Um, just a terrible showing. Jaylen Brown's he's going to be out. There's no way that they stick together at this point. Barring something crazy and then bringing another star in, I think he's gone. Jason Tatum is an elite top 10 player, but this team just has nothing around him. If Jaylen Brown is not, the normal Jaylen Brown, this team has no chance because Jason Tatum, even injured, I mean, he tried. He 11 rebounds, 14 points, 4 assists, but just couldn't hang with the Heat. I gotta say, I'm extremely surprised because the Heat are terrible on the road. Aren't they like 17-25 during the regular season or something? They were
They were
not a.
pr- they were pretty bad on the road. Not Warriors bad, but they were still pretty
They
bad on the
were they
road.
were bad.
But they
So
already won two in Boston, so this shouldn't
yeah,
surprise many people.
no,
I mean,
it's
yeah,
not
they
surprising.
got
It's just
yeah,
surprising because the Celtics were so good at home and the Heat were so bad on the road. It's just like it just completely flipped. Just
yeah. I mean, what you say about Jaylen Brown, I agree. I mean, I don't think he's going to stay. I think they actually have a nice bevy of pieces around, but obviously not a number two option. Like Derek White is a good, Malcolm Brogdon is good. Al Horford is older, and obviously you got Grant and Rob Williams, but they need that second option in case something happens to Tatum. Somebody take the load off. I don't know who that can be, but I do want to get into who impressed you the most on each team. I kind of know your answer for the Heat, and who obviously left you disappointed from each team because, I mean, this series with the seven, each team won three in a row and then they collapsed. So I mean, what do you take of the overall series? Who do you have high grades for, and who do you give like a D or an F to in the series?
so I mean, for the Heat, the best player for the Heat was it was Jimmy. I mean, just from what he did, from defense standpoint, offensive standpoint, leadership standpoint, it's Jimmy. Caleb Martin is definitely the most surprising though. That was not a pick that if you had told me in the playoffs like who's going to be MVP, you got Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, maybe Kyle Lowry, who I'll get to in a minute because he might be my most disappointing player from the Heat.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Caleb Martin was definitely not in my top three. He looked great. Hopefully it translates over to the finals because they're going to need all hands on deck for the Nuggets. But my most disappointing player for the Heat it's got to be Kyle Lowry. I mean, he had 7 points in Game 7, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. But like for a solid point guard that Kyle Lowry is, I know he's getting up there in age, and he's gotten replaced by Gabe Vincent. I mean, Gabe Vincent's getting more minutes than Kyle Lowry is, which is kind of crazy.
Vincent
Um,
starting
yeah,
over
yeah,
Lowry.
he's starting over Kyle Lowry. So I mean, definitely disappointing to see Kyle Lowry go from like an elite option to he's now starting on the bench. Yeah, starting on the bench, and really not providing much of anything. But I mean, I guess he's doing the role that they need him to do. And for that, I guess it's good. But definitely disappointed to see Kyle Lowry not blow up in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the first three games, I would say Lowry did really well, and then after game three, like, I mean, just off a cliff. Like
Yeah,
because he's been like this all season. If you've watched the Heat play, like there are spines where Lowry plays like he's back on the Raptors. When they won the championship with Kawhi, it's a solid second option. And there's time where he acts his age, if not older, like just turning the ball over, like reckless defending, reckless on offense, like turning the ball over, like kind of what Jimmy Butler was doing in game 6 and 5, where he'd just jump up and then pray somebody would get that pass
yeah.
option. So I would say he's my most disappointing on the Heat. Impressing me, I gotta say, Gabe Vincent, of course, but Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson didn't play for
Finally,
30 games in the regular season, healthy scratches. Like Duncan Robinson came back and had a great series. I mean, he did better than Strus, even though he had a block. Duncan Robinson did not have a single block in the regular season or playoffs, and he blocks a Jaylen Brown three. Like, I mean, we were saying elite defender Duncan Robinson while the game was going on. So he has really revived his status. Not earning his contract because he's still overpaid a little bit,
oh,
but
he's
definitely,
absolutely overpaid still.
of course. But compared to Kyle Lowry making 33 million, I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah, I
Um,
gotta give him props. Michigan man, Duncan Robinson,
yeah.
legend.
So I would say for that, for the Celtics, who's impressed me the most? I gotta say, I mean, Tatum, is an amazing player, so I can't be too impressed by him. But even with his injury, able to play at least as hard as he did. And I gotta say, Al Horford, surprisingly, I know he didn't have that great of a game, but he's still at his age, even showing the defensive prowess, being able to hit from three, move the offense. And most disappointing, I mean, it's got to be Jalen Brown. Like, you
Yep.
expect this guy. They were arguing that they had two top 20 players in the NBA. He didn't even look top 50. And his max contract that he's about to earn, he could earn $53 million a year on his contract. So I don't think he's worth it, but he's definitely most disappointing for me for Boston.
Yeah, and definitely Jalen Brown most disappointing. I agree. Most impressive, I gotta say, is Derek White. I mean, literally saved them in Game 6 with a putback. Game 7, I mean, he still put up the second most points on the team with 18. You can't say Jason Tatum because it's Jason Tatum. Marcus Smart was
Hmm.
pretty non-existent. And again, yeah, Jalen Brown just not great. Grant Williams not really great. Robert Williams not really great. The whole team just wasn't that good. Tatum is Tatum. We know that Jalen Brown, when he's on, is an elite top 20 player. But I don't know if just the city of Boston's taken its toll on this man, but he just was a non-factor. 23 shots, you're looking, and he got 19 points on 23 shots. It's not good. But my question is, where does he go next year? Because he's going to get a supermax. He's going to get a lot of money. There's a couple of places that he could go. So
Hmm. I mean, again, he's got 1 year left on his deal, right? He's still young. He's still an amazing player. I think right now the odds favor Milwaukee to be the favorite to get him. I think Atlanta is the second highest favorite and Portland is fourth. I don't know what Atlanta could realistically give Boston. I mean, unless you're throwing in like John Collins and a couple of picks, or maybe you're giving them to DeJounte Murray, 1 year deals each. Maybe they just need to flip of scenery. Give Jalen Brunson or Jason Tatum an elite point guard and DeJounte Murray, and then give Trey Young that really tall defensive wing and Jalen Brown. But I gotta say, if Portland comes to you with the third overall pick and some good players that they have, I would
yeah,
say yes to that because you get a cheaper contract for 5 years. I mean, you're getting either Brandon Miller or you're getting Scoot Henderson or you're getting one of the Thompson twins. Like, I would take that offer if I'm Boston. And if I'm
yeah. So
Portland,
if right now if Portland goes to Boston and says we'll give you Anthony Simons and the third for Jalen Brown, do you say yes?
I would say yes, because Anthony Simons is a great point guard, right? You're going to get a cheap option. I think you still have to throw in a little bit more, maybe another first round pick, or maybe like
Like a
they don't have
Jeremy
Josh
Grant,
Hart
like a
anymore.
Jeremy Grant.
Maybe not even Jeremy Grant, maybe like Nasir Little and one of their other wings that they have that's young and good. But I think that's enough for Boston because they also don't have to pay Jalen Brown that money now.
Yeah.
They get a much cheaper option and they can sign somebody in free agency, if not this year, the next.
You're probably not giving up Shaden Sharp. I feel like that'd be a little bit of an overstep to give up Shaden Sharp the first and Anthony Simons. But I mean, if they could get Jalen Brown for Anthony Simons and the third overall pick, and maybe what is Yusuf Nurkic still on that team?
Yeah, but they need the big. I mean, Portland doesn't have many
Yeah,
bigs.
I guess they don't. But Jalen Brown is going to have a lot of suitors. There's rumors that Detroit is going after him. I think it'd be a mistake at this point. We're not at the point of contending, but someone said, "Are you giving up Jaden Ivey and number 5 for Jalen Brown?" And I had to think about it for a second, but um,
Hmm.
it gets
But
interesting. What were you gonna say?
I think the difference between 5 and 3 though in this draft
It's
is huge.
huge. Yeah,
Like it's a big deal. Like that's the difference between like 2 and 5. Like
yeah,
if you have the second overall pick, like I know Charlotte has it. Like they have way more playing power. I don't think Charlotte would give up the second pick because they just need young talent and they're not at the stage to, like they don't need to sign Jalen Brown to that max contract.
yeah.
But if you give me Dame for a couple of seasons with Jalen Brown, and I mean, if they give up Shaden Sharp and the third pick or for Jalen Brown, they could keep Anthony Simons and they could re-sign Brown to a long-term deal. That's a
And you
great
hold,
foundation
yeah, and
going
you hold on
forward.
to Jeremy Grant. That's a good team.
That's what I'm saying. That's a good team for at least the next
Yeah,
4 seasons. And once
yeah.
Dame
So
retires, you have Anthony Simons. So we'll see what they do in the offseason. I mean, it's literally a day after the game, but it'll be interesting to see who goes after him.
when would he
But
have
enough.
to? Would he have to be like dealt by a certain day?
No,
I
no.
don't.
I
I don't
mean,
think he would.
before the draft, that's
Yeah,
the for the picks just before the draft.
I guess. Yeah,
So when the draft's in a month, the draft's after the finals. So
yeah. Well,
we'll see what happens.
we had another series that nobody's nobody gave a shit about because the Nuggets absolutely wiped the floor. We didn't talk about it either because it was only game 3, but we called
But
it the
we
sweep.
knew game
We knew.
four was happening. Yeah.
We knew, but the Nuggets did in fact sweep the Lakers, like we all thought. We kind of talked about it beforehand, so we don't have to get too much into it because we've already
Hmm.
talked about LeBron's downfall and all of that. But do you take anything away from the Nuggets 4-0ing the Lakers, or is it to be expected?
I mean, it just legitimizes everything that they've done. The media, the Nuggets haven't let go of the one seed almost all season. I mean, once they got to the top spot, they're always like, 2.5, 3 games ahead of every team. So never too far ahead, like the Warriors have been in the past. But this is the best team in basketball. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's left, you could argue. I mean, obviously the Heat beat the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Knicks, but this is the best team from regular season left. And they are scary deep. They are talented. They have the you could argue 3-time MVP if you disagree with Joel Embiid being named it this year,
And we bring that fact up every episode.
and we will
That
because I
man,
mean,
we will continue to do it.
because Embiid just got it because of voter fatigue, in my opinion. I mean, again, he's a great player, but Jokic should have deserved MVP. So, I mean, for this Heat Nuggets series that's starting up in Denver on Thursday, I mean, I know it's going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to go 6 or 7, probably 7. I know you think less. Tell me what your thoughts are on the Heat and Nuggets, and do the Heat have any chance?
So I think it's gonna be a good series basketball wise. I just think the talent on the Nuggets outweighs the talent on the Heat. I mean, Jimmy Butler is amazing. We know that playoff Jimmy
Hmm.
has been good, but I mean, Nikola Jokic is on another planet. Jamal Murray has been playing the best basketball of his career at this point in the playoffs. You've got Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, lockdown defender. Like I don't know. I look at
KCP.
yeah, I look at this Nuggets team. It's like who's stopping Jokic?
Hmm.
I don't think Bam is. Bam's
Yeah.
been a pretty big disappointment in the playoffs so far. I mean, he's done what he's had to do, but he hasn't really gone crazy.
Hmm.
So I mean, like I'm just looking at it. Jokic is dropping 30 points a game. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know who you put on Jamal Murray.
Yeah,
You, you
I
put
think what you said is interesting because every single series that Heat have played in, that's always been the thing, right? They don't have the talent to match up with them. And we said it before, like the talent, you're right, but the team wise, I think Denver's the first time we're like, no, the team is also as good as the talent.
yeah.
So I think for the Heat to have a chance, like you got to let Jokic get his and pray to stop everybody else. That's my thought. Like if you let Jokic go for like 35, but you limit him from averaging a triple double, or you maybe limit him to like 6 assists a game instead of 11. I think you have a shot. It's going to be super close. I mean, I'm picking Heat in 7, but
Yeah.
if Denver
I
wins in
know that.
5, if Denver wins in 5 or 6, I wouldn't be like super shocked because they're such a good team. Like I love the Heat,
Yeah.
obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, and to give credit to the Heat, they did stop Giannis in the first round. I mean,
Hmm.
they I don't know stop. He was still pretty effective, but they beat Giannis in the first round. So they do have at least some sort of experience with stopping an elite big. I just think Jokic is a different animal. Um, Dude's just insane. I thought he should have won MVP this year. I'm taking the Nuggets at 5. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
The
knew
Nug
it. That's okay.
I picked the Nuggets to win the NBA Finals in like November.
You've
Actually, it was
picked the
probably
Heat. You've picked against the Heat every series and we've
I
won. So
have.
keep it up.
I
So keep it
have.
up.
I'll be happy if the Heat win for you. I think the Nuggets are just going to be too much, especially on home court advantage. If
Hmm.
Miami gets one in Miami, if they win one at home, I think it's a win for them. They're good. They're not Denver Nuggets good.
I'll let you know because I will be at the watch party in Miami for Game One on
I thought you were about to
Thursday.
say I thought you were about to say
I'll
you're
be
at
in
the
Denver.
game.
Dude, the
Okay.
cheapest tickets for a home game for the Heat is $603, standing room only for Game 3. Game 6 is $800 to get in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
ridiculous.
we do have, in these playoffs, we've kind of had some old rivalries come up. The Heat against the Knicks, against the Celtics. Obviously, we played the Bucks. We eliminated them for the playoffs when the Bucks were the one seed, right? In 2021. But we have some rivalry between the Heat and Nuggets. And I know I brought this up last week, discussing just in case they made it to the finals, and thank God they did. But I want to bring you back to November 2021, where Markieff Morris on the Heat got blind checked by Nikola Jokic after a hard foul that wasn't called by Morris. Jokic got ejected from the game. Morris was out for 58 games that season due to a concussion that he suffered from Jokic. And there's a quote by Jimmy Butler saying, "This is definitely not going to get blurred. Pussy ass shit, bring that shit, bring your ass to the back," to Nikola Jokic and the entire Denver Nuggets team. They waited at the locker room with a security guard in case anybody from Denver decided to step up. And they've played each other twice since then. It's been very close both times. So, what do you make of like that flair into it? Doesn't mean anything because Morrison's not on the team anymore. These teams have moved on. It's been almost 2 years. But do you think that's going to add any flair in case there's like a little scrum up in the series?
I think the media will like try to make it some because you already know this is not going to be a highly watched finals. It's just not. The casual fan is going to be bored. They're going to think this is
Hmm.
big white boy shooting versus a team that plays a really good defense. That's pretty much what the casual fan's going to think. It's not
Hmm.
high name teams, elite teams, name wise. So I do think they'll push the whole narrative. I don't think it's going to be that bad. Like you said, Markieff Morris isn't on the team anymore. It was a couple of years ago. It also was the finals. You're not going to want to do stupid shit.
Hmm.
If this was round one, maybe the shit could pop off. This is the
Yeah.
NBA Finals. You are absolutely not going to do anything to hinder your chance to win, which is why I don't think there's going to be too much that happens now. I could be wrong. Jimmy Butler could go out there throwing hands with Nikola Jokic game on, and I'm here for it. But
Could you imagine?
yeah,
That's a good way to bring all the casual fans
yeah,
in. But
there you
oh shoot,
go.
there's some fighting going on.
I do think both teams are gonna they understand that there's some bad blood, but this isn't like the bad boy Pistons versus this isn't Malice at the Palace bullshit. This is
Yeah, or like
uh,
the
the
Jordan
Jordan
rules with the
rules with the
Pistons.
bad
Yeah,
boys. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna
yeah.
be anything like that. It's been a couple years. It's the finals. I don't think personally anyone will do anything stupid to ruin it,
Hmm.
but we've seen what happened in the past. What has happened in the past, and anything's on the table. I just don't think it'll happen.
If Udonis Haslam checks into the game and it's not a blowout, I know something's about to go down because
Oh,
he's about to like
yeah,
body check somebody. Like like that man is only in this series as the enforcer because
yeah.
he's not going to play the rest of the series anyway. So I'll text you if that happens.
All right.
So besides the NBA finals, unless
Well,
there's anything else you want to add.
before we move on, I saw this question on Twitter. It was
Hmm.
what is worse? Like what is worse to happen to a team? Like getting swept 4-0 or blowing a 3-0 lead? And I had to think a minute because it's like if you get swept 4-0, you didn't even win a game. You weren't competitive in the series at all. But
Hmm.
if you blow a 3-0 lead, it's like, yeah, you won, but you gave up 4 in a row to lose. So, what do you think would be worse for a team, getting swept or blowing a 3-0 lead?
I think blowing the lead because if you get swept, like you could just say, okay, we weren't competitive, like this just wasn't our year. We just didn't match up well. It's kind of like the Lakers, right? The
Yeah.
Lakers just knew that they just like they played hard every game, but they just didn't match up well with Denver. But if you blow a 3-0 lead, you're like, wow, we had these many chances to close out the other team. We know that we're good enough to match up with this team because we beat them 3 times in a row and we couldn't finish the job. So like if the Heat had lost game seven, it would have been way more soul crushing than if they got swept by Boston.
Yeah.
So I would say blowing the lead is worse.
Yeah, no, I agree. It made me think for a second because I was like, well, at least you win a game, but then if you lose 4 in a row and can't even win one, it's probably more heartbreaking than just getting blown out of the water 4 games in a row.
Yeah. Before we get to the other finals, I want to stick with basketball for a second just to wrap it up with some coaching hirings that happened over
Oh, we
the
did have that.
last week. We had Nick Nurse, who I know was popular choice for the Pistons job, in your opinion, or you thought he would be at least decent. Going to Philadelphia to be on the 76ers. And he is very well known for almost following a Tom Thibodeau kind of style where he's only played his starters for like 40 minutes a game. Do you like the hiring in Philly? What does this mean for Joel Embiid and his future?
I don't know. I don't think it's a bad hire. I mean, this guy just won what Coach of the Year 2 years ago,
Hmm.
2 or 3. So I mean, anytime you're bringing in a Coach of the Year, I say that, but we brought in Dwayne Casey and then we're shit. But normally, if you bring in a Coach of the Year, it's gonna work well. Um, they wanted Doc Rivers out. They obviously wanted a change in leadership. I don't know if it's the right call. Harden wanted a new coach, which I'm assuming now means Harden might stay if Nick Nurse is the coach. Um,
Yeah.
I'm assuming him and Embiid had something to say about who they hired. I like it. I think it's a good hire. Um, like you said, they're playing their stars 40 minutes a game. I think it's kind of what they need. Embiid is a guy that, to win games, you want that guy playing 40 minutes a game. Harden, you want playing 40 minutes a game. These stars that are playing, 30 minutes a game, it's not effective. Throw them out there. They're athletes. They can play 40 minutes. They're good. Give them an off day once a month. Run them out there. They're your best players. Play them for a reason. So I think it's a good hire.
I think the only concern is with the injury history of both, like Embiid and
Yeah.
Harden, especially Embiid. That's the one thing that gives me pause. But I mean, he's a great coach. Like he obviously hasn't had the talent as much as he won when he won the finals in 2019 with Kawhi. But I think it's a great hiring. They needed to move on, like you said, from Doc, and this gives them a chance to still have an elite level coach and keep up with the Bucks. You can now add the Heat to that mix and Boston. Um, so I like the move. I do like the move. We did have a former Raptors assistant coach, Adrian Griffin's been pulled from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's going to hire him to be their new head coach, which I thought was interesting because he was just in Toronto. Toronto had a head coaching vacancy. They still do, and they didn't promote from within. They didn't promote Adrian Griffin to head coach. Instead, Milwaukee steals him to be their head coach. Do you think that means anything, or do you think he just would rather work with Giannis than Pascal Siakam?
I mean, like, who wouldn't want to work with Giannis? But I'm assuming this means Toronto has something big in the works. They do have a
Hmm.
good team with Kyle Lowry, Fred Van
There you
Fleet,
go.
Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam. They have like the core nucleus. It's there. It's something
Hmm.
good to work with. They just need to build around it. There's no depth. So I'm assuming there's going to be a big name coach going there, whether it's Budenholzer, whether it's Monty Williams, who just declined the Pistons job, but jury's not out yet. I guess the Pistons say that they're still in on Monty Williams, which is interesting. But I'm assuming this means that they've got something big lined up. I don't see a no-name coach going to the Raptors because this is still a team that is going to be and should be competitive in the East.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's no way Toronto should have missed the playoffs or the play-in this
Yeah,
year.
no,
They were better than Atlanta. I know record-wise they didn't show it, but they're a better team than Atlanta. No diss
yeah,
to Trey Young or DeJounte Murray, and I would argue they're better than the Bulls. Like I know they ended up losing that game to Chicago in the play-in, but this is a team that should be a 6 seed, 7 seed. You would think they're better than Brooklyn for sure. So they just got to find the right coach. For Milwaukee, I mean, I have no idea who this guy is. I have no idea
yeah.
how
I
he's going to
have no
coach.
clue either.
Yeah,
So,
no one does. No one does. He's
so
an assistant. He may revolutionize Milwaukee. He may throw him in the dumpster fire.
yeah.
You never know.
If Giannis is shooting threes next year consistently at 35%, then
Yeah,
it's
he's a
done.
legend.
He's a
Yeah,
legend.
yeah. There are some vacancies, like you just mentioned. Detroit is one, Toronto's another, and Phoenix is the third. You got to think these teams want to hire somebody before the draft, right? To get a solid foundation of who to pick.
Yeah, so I know Phoenix has been in on Ty Lue, who is still under contract for another year with the Clippers. So they're kind of have to. I think they're going to be one of the teams that takes Budenholzer or I can't or Doc Rivers.
Hmm.
Um, I think he's either one of them is going to go there. You're also not hiring a no-name coach that has no experience in Phoenix with KD and Devin Booker. You want someone that has been there before. Budenholzer obviously has. Doc Rivers, we know, is probably one of the best coaches. I don't want to say best,
Eh,
maybe not best, but he's a good coach.
he's a good coach.
Yeah. So I think one of them are going to go there. Detroit, the odds-on favorite now is Kevin Ollie, the old UConn men's basketball coach
Yes, I
and
do know him.
the overtime elite coach. He's now he's like -1,000 to be their next coach.
Oh my gosh.
They did say that they're still in on Monty Williams. They gave him a really big offer, and I was actually thinking about this earlier. Is that if we had gotten Victor Wembanyama, I feel like we would have a chance at like an elite coach. Because
Yeah.
who's not going to want to go to a team that has Cade, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and Victor Wembanyama? I think us losing the lottery and falling down to 5 has hurt our chances at getting an elite coach, which sucks. Not only do we miss
Hmm.
out on a generational talent, we also miss out on a great coach. Hopefully, they're able to get someone other than Kevin Ollie, because I'm sorry, I'm not a huge fan of him. I would
Hmm.
love a Monty Williams. I don't think that's where it happens. And then again, Toronto, I think, is going to end up getting whoever the Suns don't take is probably who goes to Phoenix or to Toronto.
I think there'll be one outside the box hire. Like Adrian Griffin kind of was that for Milwaukee. Like if you tell me like Jeff Van Gundy is going to take a job again,
Oh
like in the
God,
NBA, could you imagine? But I think there's going to be something like that by one of these three teams. And honestly, the team that leads me the most to think that is Phoenix because they haven't hired anybody yet.
hmm
But I think you're right. I think Budenholzer, he might not get a job. I could see him being an ESPN analyst for this upcoming season. His brother just passed away. He might want to take some
yeah,
time away from the
take
game.
a year off.
Yeah, or Doc Rivers, honestly, the two of them. I think them on ESPN, like I could envision that, happening. But we'll see what happens. It'll happen before the draft, just like the Jalen Brown
Yeah,
situation. We'll get some answers. But I think that's it for basketball. But we do stay in South Florida for our next major sport. South Florida on top in basketball and on the ice. The Florida Panthers, we knew it last series or last episode. They've been waiting on where to fly, and they're going to Vegas. It's every bachelor party in South Florida happening in hockey as the Golden Knights trash Dallas. I mean, they let Dallas get two in game 4 and 5. So you're like, oh, maybe another 3-0, but comeback. But the Golden Knights, I mean, they won 6-0 last night, which nobody even watched the game because
They stomped them.
nobody even watched the game because game 7 was on for basketball. Like, Vegas really, they were like, okay, Dallas, we're done playing for our food. We're going to beat you now. So that series actually starts on Friday. I thought it started on Wednesday tomorrow. It starts on Friday. Um, Obviously, there's some history. The Golden Knights are undefeated at home against the Panthers overall in their inception. The Panthers are 4-1 at home against Vegas since they became a franchise. Neither team's won the cup, so we're going to have a new cup champion. Who do you like in this matchup, and what's going to be the difference in the series?
I don't know. I mean, Florida has a hot goalie, and that's what wins in the NHL playoffs. If you can ride a hot goalie, you're going to the finals. They've done
Hmm.
that with Sergei Bobrovsky, who has been insane. Probably the favorite for the Conn Smythe if they win the cup at this point. But on the other side, I mean, Vegas has Aiden Hill, who's looked just as good as Bobrovsky, if not better. So both teams are riding a hot goalie. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk has been really good. Uh, Barkov has looked really good, but I mean, I don't know. The talent on Vegas, I think, is better. You have Jack Eichel, who was the former number 2 overall pick. You've got William Karlsson. You've got Shea Theodore. They have a team that's built for the playoffs. They stomped the shit out of Dallas too. Like it wasn't really a close series. Uh, Jamie Benn with a boneheaded play getting suspended for 2 games.
Hmm.
They ended up winning the 2 games he was suspended for. Threw
Yeah.
him threw him back in the lineup and then subsequently got 6-0'd. So
Yep.
just goes to show where that team's at. Um,
Deserved. Deserved.
Absolutely deserved. Now that man should have been thrown out for the playoffs. Terrible hit. That's not the first time he's done it either.
Hmm.
It's like the second or third. He did it to Dylan Larkin a few years ago. Dylan Larkin was out for the rest of the year. Didn't get suspended for it. So fuck Jamie Benn. Fuck the Stars. Uh, but also like fuck Jack Eichel. I hate. This is like a lose lose. I hate Jack Eichel as I'm wearing his hoodie.
I was about to say you're wearing the Sabres jacket, aren't
As I'm wearing his
you?
Sabres hoodie still. I
Yeah.
mean, I was fine until some of the things he said were not very nice to the city of Buffalo. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It is cool because you got Sam Reinhart who played for Buffalo. You have Jack Eichel who played for Buffalo playing against each other in the Cup.
Yep.
Those guys are best friends. It's interesting. I'm gonna take Florida. Give it to me. They beat Boston. They came back. What it was 3-0, right? Yeah, they reverse
Yep.
swept
It
them.
was three. It
Yeah,
was a reverse sweep. Yep.
they've beaten probably the 2 best teams in hockey with Carolina and Boston.
Hmm.
Who did they play in the second round? Why can I not?
Toronto. They played
Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah, they played Toronto. So they've been there. They've beaten the best teams in the East. Vegas, on paper, probably should win. I don't know. I think it's gonna go 7. My
Hmm.
gut right now is saying Florida. If Vegas wins in 7-2, I mean, I'm not surprised. I just don't think this is gonna be a short series. If both goaltenders
Yeah.
stay hot, this is gonna be a series that has like 3 or 4 overtime games in it.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Bobrovsky and how he's been. I mean, even that entire game 4, it's not like they did sweep Carolina, but it's not like it was like, oh, they blew out any game. It was
Yeah.
all a 1 goal difference, and obviously went to overtime for two of them. So multiple overtimes for game 1. Like you said, like it kind of reminds me of when the Lightning won back to back with, I'm gonna butcher his name, Vasilevsky as
You
their
said it
goalie.
right. Wow, that was
I
perfect. Andre Vasilevsky.
Vasilevsky, yeah, Andre
Yeah.
Vasilevsky. I mean, because I remember when Florida matched up against him in the Stanley Cup, and they put up like 20 shots on goal, and he just saved them all. Like it was nothing that the other team could do.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that with Bobrovsky now with Florida. I think the delay might actually hurt the Panthers a little bit more than they may realize, but again, if you have him on target, Ekblad should be healthy and ready to play for this game. Obviously, Sam Reinhart's been really good. And Verhage, I mean, he's been clutch. So has Kachuk. I got his name right this
There you
time.
go. You got it right.
Adi Kachuk. I'm liking the Panthers. I mean, obviously, he has the home team in the area, but I think they've just been the better hockey team in the playoffs. I
They've
mean,
looked amazing.
people are saying, how did Boston get 3 on them? Because they swept Carolina. They won 4-1 against Toronto. Like, they've looked like the best team this Stanley Cup playoffs. So I'm gonna take Florida in six. If it goes seven, I'm not gonna be upset. But like, I'm gonna take Florida in six.
Yeah, I think Florida's a solid pick. Hockey's just like college baseball. If you run into, in the College World Series, if you run into a hot pitching staff, there's nothing you can do. Like you're just
Mm-hmm.
done. And we'll talk about the College World Series in a little bit. I didn't put it on the doc, but we do have
Yep.
some stuff about that.
Yeah.
Um,
The conference tournaments ended yesterday
yeah,
or 2 days ago.
but yeah, if you run into a hot goalie, there's just nothing you can do. So if Bobrovsky's getting 40 saves a game and you're scoring two, you're probably not winning. I, Bobrovsky's been here before. He was an elite goaltender a few years ago, kind of fell off, and he's back to his old self. I'm going to take the Panthers in seven. I think there's going to be three overtime games in this series. I think it's going to be really close.
Mm-hmm.
I think every game's gonna. There's not going to be a blowout. Every game's going to be like a 2 goal game at minimum, or
I would
max,
I
I
would
don't know.
take I would take the under, and whatever the over under is on this series, I would take the under because again, you got like you said, two great goalies going at it back to back. Like it wouldn't surprise me if one of the games is like 5-4, 5-3, but I'm
Yeah,
thinking like 2-1 or like 3-2 is like the highest. Even a 1-0 happening, I can see it.
yeah.
Um,
It's going to be another series that, for the casual fan, it's not going to be fun to watch. You're not.
mhm.
You don't have these huge teams. Vegas is still a growing market for hockey. They have proved that it works out there, though. They've been to the playoffs pretty much every year. They've been to the Cup final twice now since 2017 when they came in.
17, yeah,
Yeah.
17.
So market's growing out there. Florida, we know it's the Panthers fans show up when they're good. They're pretty fair weather. I'm not gonna lie. It's not
Hmm.
a huge market. It kind of works, I guess. It definitely works in Tampa. It still hasn't really caught on in Miami, and maybe that's just because they have the Marlins, the Dolphins, and the Heat. You know,
Hmm.
also, there's a lot of Hispanic culture, and hockey is not a Latin America, South America, Central America type sport. It
Yeah,
just hasn't
this
caught
is
on.
this is definitely a Broward County kind of sport.
Yeah,
Like Miami-Dade County, like the Heat are in downtown. The Panthers are in like we said, near the Everglades, west of
yeah,
Broward
it's
County.
just
Like
like
they are
way
not,
out.
they're not. But I mean, even the watch parties that they have and the home games, I mean, it gets full. Like it's loud in FLA Live Arena. So
Yeah, when they
it's
win,
still,
they pack it out when they win. It's when they're not so good that it's kind of they were really
yeah,
bad attendance wise for a lot of years until
yeah.
they got good. But you know, I'll root for them. They're the technical home team for me, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's going to be a good series. I just think it's going to be pretty low in viewership, just because again, it's not like the Red Wings versus the fucking Avalanche or something like that.
Or
It's
the Blackhawks.
the Blackhawks. Yeah, it's gonna be low viewership. I think it's gonna be a great series.
Hmm. I agree. Unless you want to talk more hockey, we'll get right into America's pastime, and that's
Oh,
a great story in baseball. I mean, I'm sure you saw it. Liam Hendriks finally came back. He was the closer for the White Sox last year. December, he got diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and has been battling it since then. He returned to action last night. I mean, they were wondering if the pitch clock was gonna they were gonna give him a ball because the standing ovation was so long for the umps, the fans, and the players on both teams, but they kind of like put a pause on the pitch clock for him to get his moment. I thought that was
which
cool.
they should have. If they gave that man a pitch clock violation, there would have been
That's
hell
what
to
they were
pay.
saying. They were like, of course, like watch the pitch clock be applied here.
Yeah,
Great moment. He did give up 2 runs in the loss that he did, but the result doesn't matter. Like
no,
the fact that he was able to overcome this
absolutely.
and return to action was amazing. And he's going to have the support of the White Sox the rest of the season, and even like the casual baseball fan. The manager for the White Sox said they don't know when they're going to throw him into the closer role yet. He said we'll have that conversation because it's hard to judge. Like rehab, it's not like an injury. It's not like when you
Yeah.
sprain your shoulder. You're like, okay, go to Double A for a little bit.
Hmm.
So they're just going to see how he feels. But I thought it was just a good, nice segue and a good starter to all the baseball news we got to go through.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
definitely happy for Liam Hendricks. He has been like before he even started throwing was in the discussion for like the trade deadline and where's he gonna go. So it is good to see he finally got out there pitched. Though he gave up 2 runs, obviously that's to be expected. He hasn't pitched in what a couple years.
hmm
So
No, I think less. I think
the 2020,
2021.
yeah,
I think was his last time, and it was no. He pitched in 2022. He had
really
58 games for the White Sox last year. Yeah,
okay,
because it was in the off season that he got diagnosed in
okay.
December.
So I mean, still a pretty lengthy amount of time without any in-game, pitching. So good for him. Glad to see him back. Hopefully he's able to get back to his old self. It's just a good story to see in
Yeah,
baseball.
for sure. And it's again those moments. It's like it's more than just a sport. It's more than just
Yeah,
what happens
for
on the field.
sure.
On the field, though, we do have we'll do a quick wrap up, and then we'll get into our report cards. I want to say since our last episode, I mean, we talked about the Rangers staying up and the Astros staying up. How about the Mariners, who we were roasting last podcast? They're 7-3 in their last 10. The Yankees are 8-2 in their last 10. So the entire AL West is just on a hot streak. We'll talk about that a little bit later in a future episode. Toronto, Oakland continue to disappoint. Oakland again setting the bar for the worst franchise in all of major sports.
Hey, they beat the Braves last night, though.
They did beat the Braves.
They
I will
did beat the
say
Braves.
they stopped an 11-game losing streak to beat the Braves. Don't know how. But Kansas City and Pittsburgh all have won 3 or less games. Pretty much all of baseball is floating around 500, either 4-6, 5-5, or 6-4, which is kind of expected at this time of year. The one good thing about the A's is we got an update on their Vegas stadium art, which I don't know if you took a look on Twitter.
I did. It looked pretty good.
They've got like the NGM Graham in the
Yeah,
background. It's going to be the smallest ballpark in baseball. It's only going to seat 30,000.
which is
But I mean,
fine.
because Vegas isn't a huge market. I mean, it's a big market because of tourism, but like if you're going to ask tourists to go see a baseball game, it's a little different than going to see the Raiders play
Yeah.
or even a basketball team in the future. But I really like it. It's going to be a partial roof, which I mean, with that desert heat like you know of, you definitely want to have some kind of a
Yeah.
covering and protection from the elements. But yeah, I like the concept. I love the A Stadium idea.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. Baseball in Vegas, I think it's going to be good. I'm fine with it being a 30,000 stadium until they could prove that they could sell that thing out. And I don't know if they're making plans to where they can expand seating. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not. I don't think they've gotten that far yet. But if it's something that they can expand seating, you know, through renovations to like 35 to 40,000, I'm perfectly fine starting it at 30,000 until they can, consistently fill it up. I mean, because if you look at it, I mean, look at the Diamondbacks. Our stadium seats 43,000. It's one of the bigger stadiums in the league. I think top five. And I mean, the average attendance is 20,000 a game. I mean,
Hmm.
over this weekend, the Red Sox came to town and it was like 25,000. But I mean, we can't even fill 30,000 seats is a lot, especially for a
Yeah,
new team that has no success. It's going to take a while for them to fill it up, so I'm fine with it being pretty small.
yeah. Just imagine all the bachelor parties though. They're not going to be able to go to the baseball games and enjoy that
Yeah,
as part of their trip. That's going to be a
yeah,
plus. I mean, even the Marlins Stadium fits. Lone Depot Park fits 38,000, and they can barely get 13,000 to fill it up.
well,
And they're an established
that's just because
franchise.
they suck.
Yeah, I mean they're doing better than the A's, which we'll get to in a
Yeah,
minute.
that's
For
fair.
the Marlins, but I like the idea. I hope to go visit it one day. I mean, for you, it's like a $25 plane ticket to Vegas, but
Oh yeah, that's easy.
yeah, I think it'd be good to go too. We did have one other cool thing that came out in baseball, and that's Marcus Stroman threw a one hitter against the Tampa Bay Rays after the Rays somehow, who would they lose to again? You just said it,
The Blue
that they just
Jays.
lost the series to the Blue Jays, right? Marcus Stroman came in
I don't know if
yesterday.
they lost the series. So I just know they lost 20-1.
Yeah, they lost 20-1. That's what it was. And the Royals, 6 outs away from the first ever combined perfect game. There's obviously been perfect games in baseball, no hitters, never been a combined one. And then the eighth inning, top of the eighth, they give up a single to lose it. But still, I mean, for two pitchers to throw a near perfect game and only give up 2 hits against St. Louis, who we've been talking about their downfall a lot, but they've been kind of on the up and up the last 15 or so games. So good on Kansas City for almost making some baseball history.
Yeah, almost.
We do want to get into our midseason report cards, and of course, we'll start with the American League East. Take us through it, Taylor.
Well, feel free to disagree with me on any of these. I feel like most of them are pretty fair. I think I have one that you'll disagree with me on, but
Hmm.
I think you actually might have. Did you change any of these?
I haven't touched it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. But we'll go through them all. We're only going to go through the AL East and the NL East today. Next week we'll go through both Central divisions, and then the following week we'll go through the West divisions, just to give us something to talk about during baseball season. There's not a lot that happens, week to week. It's more of a month to month type thing, checking in, because nobody really
Yeah.
cares about a Wednesday game between the A's and the Astros. But the AL East, I'll start at the top. This is going by standings order. The Tampa Bay Rays, and I feel like there should be no disagreements here. The Tampa Bay Rays get an A+. They are
Hmm.
the best team in baseball. I don't want to say by far, but it's pretty damn far. They are good. They beat pretty much everyone. They're competitive against everyone. They're great all around. The elite pitching with McClanahan. They've got Glasnow coming back, or is he still?
I think he is not this
Is he
week.
not this week yet?
Let me see.
I know they
Tyler
lost one
Glass.
of their guys. Was it Jeffrey Springs? They lost to an injury, I think.
No, he
Um,
did come back. He
did
did
he come
come
back?
back on Saturday. Yeah, and he had
Okay.
8 strikeouts in four and a
Who?
third innings.
Glasnow?
Yeah, Glass now did.
Okay.
Yep.
So they got him back, who's an elite piece for them. Their defense is great with Arozarena and Wander Franco, who I don't know if we talked about this, but did you see the play where he fielded the ball and threw it up to himself and then threw it to first base?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
I
Casual,
don't know,
just casual
casual,
flex. But
and
he
then
almost was out. I mean, he was
he
almost safe. The
he
runner
was
on
almost safe.
first.
So I don't know what your thoughts on that were. I know a lot of people. It was kind of a mixed opinion. Like he still got him out, whatever. But like at the
Hmm.
same time, was it really necessary? No. If he had
Yeah,
been
the risk.
safe, then I
If he was
think
safe,
the risk versus reward is
yeah,
terrible there. It was kind of dumb, but like I'm for it, whatever. But the
yeah,
Rays get an A+, elite pitching, elite defense, elite hitting. There's no holes to this team. They're competitive with everyone. We saw with the Dodgers, great series this weekend. They beat them last night 11-10. It's the best team in baseball, A+. You have any
yeah.
objections?
Only thing I would say is I love Tampa. I love everything you said about them. It's just playoff time. Their home environment doesn't stand up to a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
the
no.
other teams in the AL. So I don't know how much of an advantage they're going to have at home. Don't be wrong. They sell out the place, especially when they're good, which they have been. But to compare it to Fenway or Yankee Stadium or even Camden Yards, I mean, I don't know. That's the only thing I have against this team. They're the best team in baseball, easily.
Yeah. Next team we have the Baltimore Orioles. This is no surprise too. They get an A. The only reason they don't get an A+ is they're just not in first place. They've
It's
had it.
not their
They've
fault.
had. That's not their fault. They get an A. It's easy. They're probably close to an A+. This is not where anyone thought this team would be. There's the surprise team of the year. Adley Rutschman's probably maybe already the best catcher in the league. I don't really know who else could. He is. He's going to make the All Star
This
game.
season he is.
Yeah,
This
the best
season he
catcher.
is.
Yeah. Elite hitting with him, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle. Great. There's no holes to this team. Um, they have a deep prospect pool too. They've got Grayson
Hmm.
Rodriguez, who they did just send back down to AAA. He still is going to be a top prospect. They have Gunnar Henderson, who started out slow, started to pick it up a little bit. I do think pitching is their downside, and they don't have any starter below a 3 ERA, which is not terrible. They've got a couple of guys in the mid threes, and then a couple of guys in 4 or 5. I think that's probably what retracts probably not getting an A+ is they don't have like an elite starter um, on the team, but they haven't needed one. They've gotten by so far. They're 34-20. They're miles ahead of where we thought they would be in the hardest division in baseball.
And I think, like you said, if they're such great prospects from sucking for so many years, like if they want to make that move for an elite starter, like they have the tools to offer a great
Oh yeah,
package for one. I
this
don't
is
know who
the
they would trade for because I don't know who teams are really offering up in the trade
yeah.
market because it seems like a lot of teams need pitching. But I mean, yeah, that's the only team. If the Orioles get that legitimate ace that they can rely on, this is the team that could win a wild card series.
Oh
This is a team that
oh
could even put up a fight in the next
absolutely.
round. Like again, Camden Yards is a really cool environment. We saw that when they had Manny Machado and Adam Jones for a couple of years. That was really
Yeah,
fun to see.
they get rowdy out there. It is a
Yeah,
great
that
place to play games.
and that entire right field section where they literally walk across the factory building next
Yeah,
door. Like I've been to Camden Yards. It's a great place to go visit. So I'm happy for Baltimore, and I hope they keep it up. I mean, the Yankees are right behind them, though.
the
I
Yankees
mean, hmm
A-. That's what I'm giving them. They don't get an A. They don't get an A+. They get an A-. Rizzo and Judge have been great. Judge is doing his normal things. He's mashing baseball. He's at like what 17 home runs. He's on pace to get pretty close to 60.
hmm
The young guys though, Peraza, Cabrera, and Volpe have been disappointing. They're all under a 200 batting average. Volpe was supposed to be like the next. Yankees fans thought he was the next coming of God.
hmm
He's been pretty disappointing so far. That's why I'm giving him an A-. Just the young guys that were touted to be really good have not performed yet so far. I don't even think Peraza is still with the team. He might have gotten sent back down. He hasn't played too much, but what he has played hasn't been great. Garrett Cole has been the lone bright spot in the rotation. He's back to his Cy Young self. But the rest of the pitching staff is at a 4+ ERA, which with a guy like Nestor Cortez, Domingo, is it Herman or Germ? I don't know. I
Herman.
don't Herman. Kind of want it to be lower than that. They still have some time to get it down, but they do get an A minus.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Peraza has been on the IL actually. He
Is
got
it the
on the
IL?
IL three
Okay.
weeks ago. Yeah. But again, he's 22. Like the
Yeah.
Yankees have they have a good mix of like vets, or if you want to say vets for Judge and Stanton and Rizzo, obviously, that have been carrying this team a little bit. But the younger guys are like, they got to get their feet wet. They're still really young. So I think Stanton also is going to come back soon. He got a rehab assignment yesterday. And like you said, besides Garrett Cole, this rotation has been doing great. So they're another team that, I mean, if they jump the gun on Baltimore for a great pitcher to join that rotation, I mean, they are only, what, a game and a half back of Baltimore right now in the standings. You obviously know
Yeah.
they have series going on in October or September. So I agree with the grade for the Yankees. I think they're a team that could get hot and catch Baltimore, get close to Tampa, but they're also a team that could collapse in like mid-June and then fall below Boston. So we'll see what happens. Their hitting's been great, but I mean, not everybody on the team is hitting. So we got to see how much Judge and Rizzo can really keep this team up.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. They are only they're like 2 games back of the
Mm.
Orioles, and they are pretty far back, like 6 games back of the Rays. So they got some catching up to do, but they got the guys to do it. You mentioned the Red Sox are the next team on the list at 28 and 25. I'm going to give them a B. Maybe it's overinflated. They haven't been the best team so far. Devers was out for a few games with a shoulder injury or something. I don't know. He was hurt during the series against us. Um, but this was not a team that was supposed to be great. We thought they were going to be a 4 or 5 team in the division. They're a 4 team, but they haven't looked terrible. They're 28 and 25. Masataka Yoshida is a shoe in for rookie of the year right now in the AL. Devers has been a little disappointing, but he's still hitting home runs. He's at 13. He's batting like 240 though. Alex Verdugo has been great for them. He has a 2 WAR, which is
That's
really
amazing,
high. That's
actually.
amazing.
Yeah.
A two WAR this early in the season is really good. So he's been a good bright spot for them. Pitching is where they lack. Chris Sale's leading the team ERA with a 4.72. That's not good. Hauk, Pivetta, and Kluber have all been bad. They're all at 5.3 or higher. They're in a tough division. They've overachieved early on, but again, we thought they were probably going to be the worst team in the division. And they're 3 games above 500. I don't know where they sit wild card wise. Actually, I do because we can just look at the standings of the AL East. So they're probably a couple of games back, but I mean they're still like within striking range of a wild card spot if they can figure out the pitching.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're like a half a game ahead of the Mariners. They're a little bit back of the Angels, the Astros, but there's 3 wildcard spots. So I think they're only a couple games back for the wildcard spot. Like you said, I think a B is a fair grade just because of expectations for the season. Like this isn't like Boston when they had Pedroia and Ortiz that you're expecting them to be at least first or second in the division. But you're right. I think Sale has been very hit or miss. I think he's been more hit than people thought, especially after so many years of injuries. But I think this is might be the ceiling for this team for this season. Just treading water, playoff hopeful. Maybe they sneak in, unless they do a crazy move at the offseason. But it's what happens when you get rid of every shortstop on your roster, essentially, in the
Yeah,
last couple seasons. So I think after the Bogarts deal, they've been doing, or letting go of Bogart, should I say. They've done a decent job of being competitive. But again, we'll see what happens in the second half because these teams that kind of tread water at this part of the season, some of them sink. So I think
yeah,
Boston might
and
be in that boat.
I think their trade deadline is going to be interesting too. Depending on what happens if they start to sink, I think Alex Verdugo could be a guy that you move. I think Rafael Devers is a guy that you move. Um, this is a team
I
that we
think
thought
they
was going to.
keep Devers though.
You
I think
think?
they got to keep somebody, right? Because I mean, Devers. After all the people they've let go, they got to keep at least Devers.
Hey,
Well, that's
you would think, but I mean, like, I
yeah.
don't know. Devers is
I
going to bring
mean,
you back a lot of return value.
if I'm the Marlins, I'm jumping on that. Listen, if we
Oh,
have
I mean,
Rafael
any
Devers, I mean any team, but like we could use a shortstop. I mean, we'll put him at short and he'll be fine. So
yeah, this
I'll
is
take that.
this is a team it's weird because they're not gonna win the division. Obviously, they're not a top 3
Hmm.
team in the division. But like, what do you do? They're kind of just stuck in this. Do you rebuild or do you load back up? Like, I don't know where Boston goes. They don't seem like a rebuilding team to me. I know the fan base would be
Irate.
irate. They'd be livid if they went full rebuild, which you've kind of seen before. They kind of have off years and then retool is what they call it, I guess.
Yeah,
But this will be an interesting team to watch at the trade deadline, depending on where they are.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, comparing them with Toronto, I mean they're only a game and a half or a half a game ahead of Toronto, but if you look at Toronto's preseason expectations, this was the team that everyone thought would be where Baltimore is. You know, they
Yeah.
thought they would have the record Baltimore does now, but I mean, God, they have been really bad to be the worst team in the AL East. I know it's a competitive division, but nobody thought Toronto would be down there. I mean, like Vladdy has been pretty good, right? Alex Manoah has been terrible for them. They
He's
just
been awful.
they just can't put it all together, you know? They have the decent pieces there, you know, like Bo Bichette is being amazing for them.
Oh
Like
yeah,
he's
like
honestly top
Bish-
five war leader.
Bichette, Chapman, Vlad, why can George Springer? Like they have absolute pieces on offense. They have pieces on pitching too. Like Alek Manoah is better than his ERA. He's having a
Hmm.
terrible year. They have Jose Barrios. They have Chris Bassett, who's having a great year. They just can't win games, and I don't know if it's their bullpen that the issue is, but they have Jordan Romano coming out of the pen, one of the best
Hmm.
closers in the league. So it's just it seems like every game they lose, they cannot put it all together. I think that's something that they can fix going down the road of the season. I think
Hmm.
it's once we get to the halfway point, they'll figure it out. Right now, I'm giving this team a C plus.
Yeah.
They
Even like Barrios hasn't been terrible for them after
no,
like getting him from Minnesota 2 years ago. I mean,
yeah,
he has a 3.8 ERA. That's what I'm saying. Like it's not like one player has been
yeah,
terrible besides Manoah, but they just can't put it together right now. But they
yeah,
can put up 28 on the Rays and then lose to Pittsburgh or lose
exactly.
to like not the A's, but lose to a really bad team, you know?
Yeah, like they are really inconsistent. I'll give them a C plus just because the stats are there. The hitting stats are there. The pitching stats are there. They just can't put it together yet. They're disappointing because this isn't where we thought they would be. They have the potential to rip off 15 in a row, though. We'll see where
Yeah.
they go. I think this is going to be another team to watch trade deadline wise. I think this might be a team that buys, though. I don't think they
Oh yeah.
sell. This is
They, they,
absolutely a team that adds.
they have too many pieces to sell,
Yeah.
you know? Like there's no way they can think because they thought that last year. Like they thought last year was the year that, oh, okay, next year we're gonna break through. Well, this is supposed
Yeah.
to be their breakthrough year. I know everyone's still pretty young on the roster, but eventually you got to start meeting expectations, not falling
Yeah.
short every year. So I don't. They might just need some kind of move to shake it up, just to make sure that the attitude is different in the second half. You know, I don't know who they go for, but
Yeah, and
we'll
I know
see around July.
they did just call a clubhouse meeting a couple of days ago, so hopefully that's able to fix some of their problems. They're just really inconsistent, so I feel like a C is fair. It's pretty average, below expectations, but they've shown us like throwing 20 up on the Rays that they absolutely can beat the best teams in the league.
For sure, for sure. And when you're talking one of the best teams in the league, you know you're talking about the Rays in Baltimore, but you're also talking about the Atlanta Braves, who I hate to admit, but the Braves have been honestly one of the best teams in baseball. Acuna is like, I mean, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to win MVP this year.
Yeah,
He's been on a tear, stealing bases, hitting for power, hitting for average. I mean, he's just been on another level. Strider, Cy Young. I mean, I don't know who else you could give it to in the National League,
whoa, whoa,
but
whoa, 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 whoa,
no, I'm
whoa,
just playing. I'm just
whoa,
playing. I know
whoa, whoa,
Zach
whoa,
Gallen
whoa.
exists. I just played that because last week I mentioned Strider,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
but again, this doesn't surprise you if Atlanta. It surprises you if Atlanta's around 500, which we'll get to another team that's around 500 in the division. But I mean, for the Braves, I agree with what you're going to give them. That's an A plus because this is the standard now in Atlanta.
Yeah, they've been great. They just got Mike Soroka back last night, who is the one that lost to the A's, but um, they've been fighting through injury. They've got an elite pitching core with Freed, Strider, Soroka. Like you said, Acuna is gonna win MVP. Ozzy Albies has been great. This team just hasn't. It doesn't feel like they've skipped a beat since they lost Freddie Freeman. Like I feel like they're better. I don't know what
Hmm.
it is, and maybe not better. He was great for him, but like we thought this team after Freddie Freeman left was gonna kind of poop out, but they've added. They've gotten Sean Murphy. He's been good. Strider's a
Austin
co.
Riley,
Austin Riley's been great. Strider being a co-favorite for Cy Young, and having Acuna. If you have the Cy Young winner and the MVP winner on your team, you're getting an A plus. They have not disappointed. They've been good.
but for all that they have, they are only 4 games ahead of the next team in division. And no, it's not the Mets. It's the Miami Marlins. And I'm going to give them an A for this grade. I know you want to say a little bit less, but I mean, a 28 and 26 doesn't scream great year, but for the Marlins, we'll take it because we're usually around 10 games below 500 at this point. They traded for a hitter. They finally with one of their great pitching players in Pablo Lopez in the offseason. Luis Ariz is going to win the batting title. I mean, Jorge Soler is leading the National League in home runs. Like Aaron Judge wants to be Jorge Soler so bad this season, but I mean, he's still batting over 370, Luis Ariz. And I don't know if you've seen, but Brian De La Cruz is also up to a 303 average. They just reinstated Jesus Sanchez today, who was hitting 286 before his injury. So they can hit, but they can't score,
They don't
which is
score.
such a
They just hit singles.
which which is such an oxymoron. Like besides Jorge Soler, this team can't drive in a run. They can
No.
get on base. They're the ultimate Moneyball team. They can get on base, but they can't score.
Well, that's because
So
Arias has absolutely zero pop. Dude just hits singles all day.
yeah, but that's what you don't expect to rise. He has one home run
Oh
this season.
yeah.
Like, you don't expect this dude to hit for power.
No, but when
Um,
you have a lot of guys hitting for contact, I mean, you're
yeah.
not going to score a ton of runs. If you're not hitting home runs, you're not getting extra base hits. Everyone's just getting on singles. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
your average is going to be high, but you're not going to score a ton of runs. I'm giving him an A minus. Sandy has been a complete disappointment this year, and I think you can agree he has been
Yeah.
terrible. He's 2-5, 2-6 now, actually. I think,
No.
but
Yes, he did lose last game, but that wasn't really his fault. He got two runs.
yeah,
So.
but 2-6, and I hate pitcher wins. Pitcher record I think is dumb, just like quarterback wins.
Hmm.
But he is 2-6. His ERA is like what 4.7 still.
I think
Um,
it's just below a five.
yeah, it's
But that's
it's
what I'm
pretty
saying.
it's pretty
Even,
bad. There, go ahead.
even with Sandy being this bad, like they're still competitive, because
Yeah,
they
no, for
won almost
sure.
every start Sandy had last year.
Yeah,
So and they've been dealing with some injuries. So I think if they can keep around this mark in the trade deadline, they just need to capture that hits. They've won like 7 games with Jacob Stallings catching, and they've won like 18 when he hasn't catched. I don't know why they keep putting this man behind the plate, but
yeah,
like you said, this is a team they're on the fringe, which is more than what you could say before the season
yeah.
started.
We definitely did not think this team was going to be in second place in the NL East this far. Another big knock on them is that their run differential is -41, which is really bad. That's not a good number for a team in second place. It's not sustainable as a potential wild card team. So we'll see where they go, but they have been a very pleasant surprise. I'm giving them an A minus. You'll give them an A. I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah,
Um, but they have been good. If Sandy could figure it out, if they could figure out how to get some power outside of Jorge
Jorge
Soler,
Soler, el
I
cubano
think,
gigante.
yeah. Would you tell me he only hits piss missiles?
He only hits fist missiles, man.
Yeah,
This man, he hit one home run that barely cleared the yard, and the center fielder for the Rockies got carted off the field
yeah,
because he tried to make a game-saving
yeah.
catch.
So
So
if they can figure out how to hit for power instead of just like hitting singles, like every player on their team does, I
yeah,
think they'll be in a better spot. I'm giving them an A minus for being a good surprise.
yeah. You can't say the same for the Mets, though. I mean,
No, you cannot.
the Mets spent the most of any team in the free agency. Obviously, Steve Cohen was not afraid to flash the dollar bills. And they've been a disappointment. I mean, they're at 500. They're worse than the Marlins, man. They have 4 times the payroll of the Marlins. I mean, you can count at like Pete Alonso, like because he's been very power happy, but like low average. Francisco Lindor, he had a home run today because I got a notification because he's on my fantasy team. But he's hitting like 220, still great defensively, so he still has a good WAR. But I mean, they haven't had as big of an impact as you thought they would. Like you thought the team would be deep and solid, but their star players haven't been carrying them as much. Where it's like the opposite of the Yankees, where the Yankee star players have been really carrying them. And I don't know. I don't know. Like besides Verlander, who's been good, and Scherzer, right? Who they've had their ups and downs even this season. Like this team just hasn't had that great of a start.
No, no, they haven't. They've been really bad. Like you said, Lindor's batting 225. Alonso's power or nothing. Nimmo and McNeil have been good, but they should not be the best players on the team. Francisco Alvarez, I'll say, has been the lone bright spot as a
Hmm.
potential Rookie of the Year candidate. He came out smacking the ball. I think he's third right now in the odds, and he could definitely keep going up. But Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer have not been up to par so far this season. We saw what they can do in their doubleheader when they just was it the Nationals that they completely just dismantled in a doubleheader.
Yeah, but it's also Washington you're playing
Yeah,
against,
it's
you know?
Washington. Yeah, but I mean that's what we should be expecting out of these two. Can they turn it around? Yes, it's the Mets. They spent the most money. Is Francisco Lindor going to keep hitting 220? Probably not. Is Pete
Hmm.
Alonso going to get his average up? Maybe. I don't know,
Maybe.
actually. He's on pace to hit 60 home runs, but to bat like 230. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
not a great start.
No. I'm giving them a D plus. They've been one of the biggest disappointments in the league. I do think
Hmm.
they have the potential to be the best rotation in the league. Tyler McGill's been pretty average, so if they can get Scherzer and Verlander back up to speed, they'll be fine.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
sorry, I was like, who the hell just walked into my house?
I would say C minus for the Mets. Like very similar to your grade. Like I think they still have a chance to put it together, but you gotta start winning games soon, right? You can't just
Yeah,
keep being behind or close to the Marlins. Like that's not a good barometer to
yeah,
measure
no.
yourself up to.
Especially in the NL wild card, where you look at it like it's a free for all. The Diamondbacks are up 3 games in the NL wild card. They've got that first spot. Pittsburgh is the second team.
The
Milwaukee,
Miami's the third.
Miami's the third team. Milwaukee's been pretty bad. So I mean, if Pittsburgh figures it out and wins the division, Milwaukee's gonna be there. So the Mets are sitting here like this is a time that you need to be winning games, and they just can't. They need to take
Yeah.
advantage of the Pirates are gonna slip. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge believer in the Marlins. I
It's
just don't
okay.
think
You weren't a big believer in the
I'm
Heat, and
not.
it's
I know.
okay. It's okay. We'll take it.
I think the Marlins probably end up slipping, but I mean, if the Mets can't win games, then we're looking at the wild card right now. Like nothing's going to
It'd be
change
D-backs Marlins in the first
in the
round of the
first round.
playoffs.
And you know what happens in the wild card is the number one wild card against the number two. The number one hosts all 3 games.
Really?
Yeah.
They don't get a home game in
Nope.
Miami?
The wild card
Oh my
round, the lower
gosh.
seed does not get a home game.
Oh man. Well, I'm flying to Arizona then if that happens.
I
In
mean,
case that happens, that
if
playoff.
we play in the playoffs, yeah, you have to come.
Yeah, and if Miami ends up somehow hosting a game, you kind of might. Um,
Yes.
for a team that went from the wild card round last year all the way to the World Series, we have the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, they've been pretty bad, worse than the Mets this year, barely better than the Nationals. They got Trey Turner, and you thought, wow, this team's going to skyrocket. I mean, they just made the World Series and added one of the best shortstops in baseball. What could go wrong? He sucks. He's been terrible this year. I mean, Bryce Harper's been hurt a lot of the season, came back much earlier than we thought from his Tommy John surgery. But I mean, this team on offense really can't hit well. Like Kyle Schwarber's been awful. He either hits a home run, he's worse than Alonso. He hits a home run, or he goes 0 for 5 the next game.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know, but about you, but I don't see the Phillies cracking the playoffs this season.
No, but that's the thing is they have the potential. Like Trey Turner is still when he's on a top probably 10 to 15 player in the league. And I mean,
Hmm.
they played the Diamondbacks last week. It was 4-2 bottom in the ninth, 2 outs. Trey Turner comes up to bat. And I said, "Wouldn't this be a great time for Trey Turner to like snap out of his funk? I know it's going to happen." And guess what he fucking does?
He
He hits a
snapped out of his
two-run. Yeah,
spot.
he hits a 2-run home run, ties the game at the bottom of the ninth. I knew it was going to happen.
Yep,
But yeah, Kyle Schwarber is batting. If I told you Kyle Schwarber is batting 168, 50 games into the season, you'd be like,
that's crazy.
and he has
That's
this,
crazy.
and he has 13 home runs. So
Yeah,
he quite literally either hits a home run or he just doesn't get on base. At what point do you bench Kyle Schwarber? Because he's batting 168. That is the worst in the league.
I think you keep him in as a DH, and you just pray that like he figures it out. Because I mean,
Yeah.
he's too reliable of a bat to leave on the bench. I mean, you know, if you want to keep him a super pinch hitter, then go for it. But like, you got to have this man play.
Yeah, but he doesn't give you any like defensive value at all. He's one of the worst defenders in the league. He's stuck in either right or left field because he can't run. He's not good at fielding. He's batting 168. Like, I don't know. Like, do you bench him for a week or two just to see if he can figure it out? You're not sending him down to AAA, obviously.
No,
I think this is a guy that you need to bench. He's batting 168. That is not going to cut it to bat fourth or fifth in the reigning World Series, not champion. What's the word? Reigning World
defending
Series,
league
defending. There
champions.
you go. Yeah, words are hard.
It's like,
Batting one, you can't be batting 168 in the 4 or 5 hole. That's just not acceptable. They need to, if they're not going to bench him, you need to bump him down to 7 or 8.
yeah. And I mean, the last team in the National League East, we've got the Nationals, who,
Oh, I didn't even give my grade. They got a D.
oh yeah, I mean, you could kind of tell. Like, they just haven't been up to par. They've been okay at home, like they're 14-10, a winning record, but that's nothing to really shout about because a lot of teams
No.
are okay at home, but they're not really good at the road. They're not really doing one thing well right now. So we'll see if they pick it up. But they're only 2 wins better than the Nationals. And everybody knew the Nationals are going to suck this season, right? They got rid of Juan Soto. They got rid of Max Scherzer and Trey Turner before. Like you knew this team was going to be bad, right? But they're only 2.5 back of the Phillies. I mean, and you still kind of expect them to lose when you see them matched up on like MLB Gamecast or MLB TV, but they've been, I want to say, better than expected, even though they're the worst team in the National League. Like that's only a 5 games off the wild card because it's so congested right now. So, I mean, for Washington, I would give them a B, a solid B, just because, yeah, they're bad, but they're not as bad as they could be. So I'd give them a B, at least personally.
Yeah, no, they absolutely deserve a B. They've been better than expected. Um, there's nothing that like stands out with them. They hit well. Josiah Gray has been really good. I think he's at like a 2.7 ERA. They just don't win games, and they just honestly they don't have the talent to win games right now. They're competitive. They can, they get close games with average teams. When they get up against the big dogs, they don't really pull them out. But for a team that we thought was going to be the worst in the NL, and they are, they're not A's bad. They have shown
Yeah.
improvement. They have some pieces there. I'll give them a B too because they've been a pleasant surprise as well. Just not great.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's it for the NL East, unless you want to talk any more about any of the baseball going on.
No, well, we do have some College World Series news that we can talk about.
Yeah, break
We're
it down for me.
probably not going to cover it too much here, but we do have regionals starting this Friday. I know you get a regional down there in Miami with the
Yep.
Hurricanes, and I have a regional in Auburn. So it'd be interesting if we play each other in Omaha in the College World Series because we might have to travel out to Nebraska for it. But I know you don't watch any college baseball at all. I'm assuming.
I will say the Hurricanes were up 5-3 at the end of the sixth inning against Clemson, and they lost 11-5. They gave up they gave up 8 runs in 2 innings to lose to the Clemson Tigers, who are hosting one of the regionals. Clemson,
Yeah,
I think, is the
they're
number
really good.
two,
They're number four.
n- number 4 team. The
Yeah.
Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who the Hurricanes actually beat to get to that spot, they're the number 1 overall seed.
Yep.
So, I mean, I hope the Hurricanes make it. Again, I don't watch college baseball, but if they make it far, I'll root for them. But again, yeah, if the Hurricanes and Auburn Tigers play against each other, I'm not gonna not watch it. I'll keep up with it.
No, it's fun. We won't cover it here until we get like maybe a champion. We'll cover the actual College World Series a little more, but regionals do start on Friday. Um, I have a bad feeling about Auburn's regional, but we'll see if they get out of it. But that's all the
Yeah,
baseball talk we have for this week. Next week we'll go into our report cards for the Central Divisions, the AL and the NL. Um, hopefully something cool happens, newsworthy, because nothing's really happened recently. It's kind of disappointing. We haven't had a
yeah.
no hitter yet either, have we?
No, not this season.
Not
No,
yet. And then
no,
like
no.
what?
We had a cycle.
We
Luis
did.
Ariz
We
hit
did
for the
get a cycle.
cycle.
But like what 2021 we had that weird stretch in like 6 weeks there was like seven no hitters or whatever. And then
Yeah,
like since then I feel like we've had nothing.
they changed the baseball. The game clock is ruining baseball. There's been no hitters
Exactly.
yet. No, I doubt it. We have a little sprinkle of soccer news just because I know it's going to catch your eye. Christian Pulisic is likely not going to stay in Chelsea. He's probably going to go to another league. It's rumored that he's going to Juventus, which is in Italy. You ready to learn some Italian to follow the games on Paramount Plus, or is this not
Uh,
even a news story?
uh Ciao. That's about all I
Ciao.
know.
That's
But
all you know.
yeah, Captain America needs to get the fuck out of Chelsea. I think it's crazy. I'm telling you, my teams are cursed.
Yep.
I picked Chelsea to be my Premier League team to watch this season. They go on and have the worst season in like 20 years in their history. The
Yep.
year that I start watching them. So I'm just telling you, I'm cursed. I'm not watching Chelsea. I'm not watching Premier League soccer next year. I say that now. I'll probably watch it.
Be a Man
But
City fan. Curse them. They've won too
nah, nah, nah,
much.
nah, nah, nah,
Curse
nah,
them.
nah. I'm staying with Chelsea. I ain't gonna switch up.
All
But
right.
I know, yeah, I will. I'll stay with him. But I know Pulisic has not been playing at all. He got booed yesterday, not yesterday, but in
Last week.
the Newcastle game where he had one shot and didn't score, and everyone. Raheem Sterling got mad at him. Like, what the fuck has Raheem Sterling done this year? Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. He ain't done shit. Now I'm getting heated now, defending Captain America. But I hope he leaves. I do hope he gets out of Chelsea because they have not treated him well. If he goes to Juventus, great. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll watch. I'll be a Juventus fan. I'll be a Serie A fan. I ain't got to watch the Premier League.
Imagine spending $535 million on your club in like imagine any sport. But imagine in a sport, you spend 535 million and you have your worst season. This is like if the Warriors paid like the triple luxury tax and
Yeah,
missed the playoffs. Like,
exactly.
or like we're a lottery team, like eighth pick. Like that's the equivalent that this was for
Yeah.
Chelsea. So,
But I will
well,
say Premier League wise, shout out to is it Luton FC?
Luton Town, when
Luton
they're
Town
up in the Premier
FC up
League,
in the Premier League. Their stadium
ten
is
thousand
literally
seats, ten
it's
thousand seat stadium.
they have to renovate it, right? Because they're not
They
going to
have
be
to spend
allowed. They
12 million on the stadium
yeah,
because to get into the stadium,
you
you
have
have
to
to
go through
go through people's
houses.
houses and gardens to
Yeah,
get in.
that's
So
insane.
they said what they're going to do is probably build a second deck and then have like ramps go over because there's one part of the stadium that is not houses around. So they're
Yeah,
going to make
on
that the
the
main entrance and then put ramps up there for the escalator. But imagine Man City going to play against a small town team that
yeah literal
they were
gardens.
they were 5 years ago not even a league club team. So they've
Yeah,
been like Wrexham on steroids. Like they've been moving up the rankings so much. So shout out Luton Town.
yeah, good for them. But
Yeah, for
yeah, that's
sure.
probably all the soccer knowledge I have for this episode.
That's fine. I do want to point out the Marlins are playing the Padres right now.
I
Sandy is
saw.
pitching. It's 4-3. Sandy is in the game. First and second, Juan Soto up to bat with one out.
I have a feeling he's about to hit a home run.
Yeah, Tatis just singled to make it 4-3. So we'll see what happens there.
Oh, I know the
But
Tiger is an absolute barn burner right now with Texas. It's like 9-6.
I'm trying to find the score. I don't even know if ESPN's showing the game as a
Oh,
highlight.
did Torque hit a home run? No, he didn't.
It's
Damn it.
9-6. Yeah, it's 9-6 still. I do say I think that's it for news, but I do have a good question of the day for you.
All right, hit me
I
with
know
it.
you talked about it earlier. I have an answer for this already. I do have one. So we talked a lot about going to sporting events. We talked about tailgating last week, about which one, like, if we had to choose anywhere in the world where to go to. But what's the best one you've seen? You saw this event live on TV, and after looking at it, even while you were watching it, you're like, wow, this is the greatest sporting event that I've seen on TV. It could be a Super Bowl, it could be an Iron Bowl, but what specific game are you thinking of like you can look back on and be like, that was such a hype game. I remember that game. What are you thinking?
I mean, like, there's an obvious answer, and you know where I'm going to go with it. So I'm not going to pick that game. Does it have to be a game that I
Okay.
watched on TV? Or
Yes,
can I
you
have
have
gone
had
to
to
the
see
game?
this. No, you saw this game
Okay.
on TV. You didn't go.
So,
Because
like,
that sways your vote. Like that changes it a lot. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
experiencing a Marlins game at home is different than watching on TV.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, the obvious answer for me is the kick six. Obviously,
hmm
like that's got to be it.
yep.
I'm not gonna go that way. I'm gonna pick something else. Unbiased fandom. I'm getting rid of it. Um, I had it down to like two. So it's either the 2016 World Series Game Seven Cubs, where they
hmm
finally break the curse. I
yep.
think I have it down to three. Actually, it's that one. Michael Phelps was it 2008 Olympics?
Olympics, yeah.
Yeah. Or it's Tiger winning his Masters in 2019. And I
Ooh,
think
that's a good.
I know,
That's
and
good.
I think I'm down between Phelps and Tiger. I'm gonna take
hmm
Tiger just because we did not think that it was gonna happen at all. Give me the
Yeah,
best
no
thing
one
I've
did.
seen on TV as Tiger Woods in 2019 winning his Masters.
I mean, especially if after all the rehab he had to do, the fact that he walks a bionic
Exactly.
leg now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for him to be so long, all the drama, there's a documentary they did about Tiger, which they showed all that. That's a great sporting event. I knew this answer from the moment I came up with the question over the weekend. I literally put a reminder on my phone just to put it in the document so we could discuss it. For me, it's Game 7, 2016. It's the NBA Finals. It's Cavs Warriors. When the Cavs came back 3-1, beat Golden State in Golden State, beat that team that had the best record in basketball. You have the block by James out of nowhere. You have Kyrie Irving with the step back three over Steph. You've got LeBron going, Cleveland, this is for you. Hate or love LeBron. Like that game was epic. And for the Warriors to choke that bad and give it up to the Cavs, like I remember watching that game and feeling like, oh my God, this is a moment in history. Obviously Cleveland's ever first NBA title, but also the way they did it, the moments that happened in the game. So I'm going to choose that game 7 as my best sporting event I've seen. I mean, there were some good ones over the years, but I'm going to take that game 7.
That's fair. That's fair. I didn't even think of that one, but that's a valid answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's clutch. Also, Juan Soto did hit a single, so it's 4-4. It's
Ah, there
4-4.
it is.
Sandy's still in the game. Take Sandy out. Okay, they just took out
So
Sandy.
So his
They
ERA is
just
going to be like 4.9 now.
4.93. Yep,
Yeah.
on the dot. But he's got runners on base, so it could go up if they let him
Yeah.
in. God
Man,
damn it.
that's tough. Hey man,
Yeah.
glad the Diamondbacks don't have to deal with this
Yeah.
slash sarcasm.
Yeah, okay. But I think that's it for us this episode. We always end at about an hour 20. We're at that mark literally
Look at
right
that, bro.
now.
We're perfect.
We are in sync at all times. But next episode will be the Jordan episode, episode 23. We'll catch you back with the first couple games in hockey and NBA finals, respectively. Maybe some trades happen. I doubt it in baseball or
Probably
basketball.
not. We didn't even
Probably
talk about
not.
football. There's nothing happening there.
Nothing going on in football.
Nothing
I mean,
going
we got
on.
some OCA footage that's
Yeah.
going on, but that's about it. I mean,
Kyle
DeAndre
Trask.
Hopkins got cut.
Oh
That's a
yeah, we
big
didn't
one we
talk
didn't
about
talk
that.
about.
We'll talk about that next week because we are running out of time. But D Hop might have a new home next week.
Yeah,
Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield. I don't know if you saw the videos. Our
I
participant
did.
for who does
Oh my
not want to
God.
play quarterback for that team. They both look like shit. But it's OTAs. Nobody gives a shit until
Yeah.
it actually starts. So maybe something happens because it's been all quiet on the football front lately.
Yeah, besides that D Hop news, which we'll get into
Yeah.
next week, I mean, there's really
Talk
been
about it
nothing.
next
But
week. Yeah.
I think that's it for us on this episode. As always, you can catch us on YouTube, the word 305 podcast, on Spotify, 31305. When Taylor is not a boomer and figures out TikTok, I'm just
I'll
playing.
figure it out. I'll figure it out.
I'm just playing. But you can always catch us.
Catch us doing fucking TikTok dances to promote the podcast on TikTok.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. If we do an in-person episode, maybe.
Yeah,
do it in person.
once we hit 100 subs on YouTube, we'll film a TikTok video of us dancing to some shit.
Oh God, that's not something people want to look forward to. That's gonna have people unsubscribe.
Yeah, man, subscribe to the YouTube. You can watch us TikTok dance because we're fucking boomers.
Yep, I've got a permanent webcam, so no more film glitching like last episode. Or right, my hair is good today. That's what it is. My hair is good today.
There you go.
But until next time, I'm Alex,
I'm Taylor.
and we'll see you on the flip side.